heard how government and private sector collaboration creates practical pathways for investment and partnership development. Well, we've now seen the complete picture. Government policy frameworks, capital mechanisms, ecosystem connectivity, sustainable finance, private sector advocacy, investment promotion, and practical implementation challenges. Before we go to lunch, let's explore the concrete trade and investment opportunities that can turn this morning's insights into actual business partnerships. This panel brings together the key players who can turn investment policy into business reality and show us the specific opportunities that make East Africa an attractive destination for the partnerships we've been discussing. First up, Mr. Sandeep Kapre. Sandeep, are you here? Thank you. Sandeep is the CEO of BDO East Africa, and he's our moderator. BDO's regional presence gives Sandeep unique insights into the practical challenges and opportunities facing businesses operating across East African markets. His perspective is going to keep our discussion grounded in real-world implementation. On the panel, Mr. D.P. Mohanty. Are you here, sir? Mr. Mohanty is the Regional MD, Safai Group and CEO MRM Limited. Safai Group's success across East Africa demonstrates what's possible when you combine Indian expertise with African market knowledge. DP brings a corporate perspective on scaling operations across multiple markets while creating local value. Please come on board. All yours. Next up, Mr. John Mwendwa. John, you here? John is the CEO of Kenya Investment Authority. Ken Invest is where investment policy meets business reality. John's team facilitates the partnerships that turn summit discussions into actual investments. He brings the government facilitation perspective that makes deals happen. Sahil. Next up is Sahil Afriya. He's the CEO of ShipRaiser. ShipRaiser represents the new generation of entrepreneurs building technology solutions that facilitate trade and investment. His platform approach to solving logistics challenges demonstrates how innovation could remove barriers to cross-regional business. Shainav Gupta is the director of ABCor Kenya. ABCor specializes in the corporate structuring and compliance that enables cross-border investments to succeed. Shainav understands the practical mechanics of setting up operations that work across multiple jurisdictions. Right, Sandeep, yep. You stand between the audience and lunch. Over to you.
No pressure. Yeah, no pressure. But the topic is great because and the panel is fantastic. Because most of you who've come from India and other parts of Africa come here to really understand what are the opportunities in East and Central Africa, or East Africa in general. My name is Sandeep Kapre. I will try and keep it short because some of the opening statements that I was supposed to make have been stolen by Just. He talked about AFCFTA, he talked about TFTA, he talked about the East African Community, and so on and so forth. So I had a list of things to say, but you've already said it. So great, so we kind of save a little bit of time. And the whole opportunity today for the panel is to actually speak to what actually has happened in reality. This is not promise. This is not about saying, yeah, this is the land of promise, there's going to be a lot of investment and trade in the region. These are actual practitioners, they've done it. There are people who've attracted investments, and they've done it. And so I think here would be more on the ground, practical kind of experiences. Ourselves, we put in video, we put a fair amount of money in growth in East and Central Africa, including DR Congo. And I just want to announce that there would be there's a member of parliament from DR Congo here who would eventually make a small speech. Thank you very much for coming across. And recently we've grown into Congo. Before we even reached the Congo, it may be a bit of an advertorial, but it's a reality. We've grown by 40% in the last year, organic. With inorganic growth, we're going to grow even further. So that just tells you, we're not just talking about, opportunities here, we're talking about reality. So what I'll do is I'll ask each of my panel members in one or two statements to just introduce themselves before we start. Sharaf.
Thanks, Sandeep. Hi everyone, my name is Sharaf Gupta. I work with Anikop Group. Right now, we recently launched our office here in Nairobi last year, and I'm based in Kenya. We help our clients to set up the company structures, family trust structures across the globe, and we also do a lot of work for our fund clients, helping them set up fund structures and also providing all the administration services. Yes.
Thank you. Mine is, I've been introduced John Wendwa. I look after the investment promotion agency for Kenya. And that all of you are business people, meaning you know how business is done. So I will not teach you how to do business. I will just be here to tell you that ours is to make doing business much easier. So from prospection to when you are commercially in operation, and we do end to end. So you have to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Sahil, based out of Cape Town, South Africa. Probably I'm the only one in the room who came to Africa for the reason of romance, not for business. I came on my honeymoon to South Africa and I stayed back, and I went back. Of course, I go back to meet my family. And 5 years afterwards, I started a company. This is a logistic company. It's called ShipRailer. We enable last mile distribution, middle mile distribution for a lot of e-commerce businesses in South Africa. And we recently started India to South Africa trade. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is DP Mohanty. I am the regional managing director for the Safar Group. In fact, in Kenya, we have the flagship company called the Mabati Rolling Mills. We operate in about 5 countries in East Africa and about 4 countries in Southern Africa. We have 3 major manufacturing units, one in Mombasa, one in Dar es Salaam, and one in Durban. And we pride ourselves to be the largest building solution and steel roofing company in the continent. I have significantly worked in Africa. I lived in Uganda. I ran an operation in Uganda. We ran the operation in Tanzania and Kenya as well. I've lived in West Africa and I've also set up operations in Egypt. So that's what.
Great. So since you were the last to speak, Ms. Mohanty, the first question is to you. You've been fairly successful, and this is a case of a Kenyan entity which has gone global. How have you managed to integrate your regional supply chains? What are your success stories? What is your advice to the various investors who are looking at the region? Maybe Kenya on its own may not be as attractive, but the region might be attractive. What is your advice to them?
I think, as Mr. Taswira spoke, today we're talking in the context of East Africa and a bit of Kenya as well. East Africa today has a single market. It's a single. There are 5 countries which operate through a single customs territory, and there are 3 countries which have signed the EAC and are supposed to get into the single customs territory. Which means that if you are manufacturing in East Africa, you have got access to close to about 350 million people. We are in the business of steel, the roofing, steel, and etc. And therefore there's a significantly large market, and we've successfully been able. I think the principles that we have followed to be successful on this continent is trying to deliver. We have a very strong partnership with Nippon Steel in Japan. So we got the technology in, and then we produce a product which is quite similar standards to the global standards, and we have tried to get to the consumer a product which is in terms of the quality and etc. And that's been a major success. And we are actually in the midstream of the business in terms of potential. We'll talk about that as I answer the next questions. But if you look at East Africa per se, the building construction industry as well as the steel industry, there's a significant imports. The total imports of building construction in East Africa is about 7 billion. So there is a lot of opportunity to manufacture here. Manufacture in East Africa, and because you have a big market, and then you do a lot of import substitution. We'll talk about the products and what the opportunities are later. But I feel that there's a lot of opportunity here. The markets are growing. Last 2 years, we have 3 new factories. Each factory an investment of $70–80 million we put up in East Africa. Moving forward in the industry that we operate, we need at least 4 or 5 more factories coming up because the markets are growing. The people need more houses, people need more roofs, people need more steel consumption. There's a lot of infrastructure work that is happening. The per capita consumption of Africa for steel is 28 kgs. India is about 95 kgs. The global average is about 218. So it's something that is going to catch up. And therefore there's a lot of demand and we need to invest. I always talk about
Fantastic. I think a round of applause for all the investment done. This is where rubber meets the road, or the steel meets the building, so to say. Sahil, the next question is to you. From a logistics perspective, a lot of people keep talking about logistics as a big problem in Africa, right? It possibly costs 5 to 7 cents per ton per kilometer on sea coming from China, and it costs 25 US cents per ton per kilometer on road. So what are you doing to kind of resolve this particular problem? Is there a port-to-port kind of a suggestion as AFCFTA actually becomes a reality?
Thank you for the question. So the way I see logistics in Africa is a huge opportunity. It is, so like, I started my company in Kenya, and then I went to South Africa. I started my operation in Kenya for whatever reason, but the South African business was really taking off. But what I really learned by operating these 2 countries is that the local maturity of the logistics distribution has to be really mature to be able to reap the benefit of the movement of the goods. Right? So like from the costing perspective, there are 2 types of costing involved into this. One is the local costing for distribution, second is the international for cross-border. So from the global costing perspective, Kenya is doing fairly well compared to South Africa in terms of last mile distribution per parcel per year. South Africa average out around $5 to $6 per parcel. US is around $7 to $8. India is around 80 cents, and Kenya is around $4 per parcel. And I was having this conversation with founders of delivery and Shiprocket when I was in India, and I was discussing with them that in India you talk about number of orders. In Africa we talk about the value of the business, because you're chasing 6 of our orders is equal to, 6 of your orders is equal to 1 of our orders. So that is also an opportunity from that perspective, but it does restrict also the number, the frequency of the movements of the good. So from the reducing the logistics cost perspective, we have done 2 things. One, in the domestic perspective in South Africa, what we have done, we are an aggregator, right? So we don't do delivery ourselves. There's already so many people who have trucks and logistics. So what we did is people who have a tech system, we integrated, and we allow them to, any of our merchants, small to large, allow them to book the parcels and stuff like that. But what we also did in South Africa, we went to nooks and corners of South African different provinces, and then we found local companies who have been running for 5 years, 10 years, but have no tech system at all. And we digitized them. And then we created an orchestration of them. And that's how we deliver thousands of parcels every day for Shein and Temu and the others like which we currently do. And this orchestration allows us to reduce the logistic cost by 50% for certain areas. So we don't charge any extra fee for delivering high-risk area, for example, in South Africa. Right? And other polygon we will charge very high. The reason we will do it because we also empowering small entrepreneurs to the living. So that's how we did it in small domestic segment. International segment will be done once the reliance. So there are like very smaller regions who does the trade between. So most of the trade comes from Asia to Africa, 60%. So now what we have done, okay, we have partnered. We have first solving the corridor between India to South Africa. So in India we partnered with the larger players there who have a consolidation network and create a consolidation. And in South Africa, we're doing freight forwarding, all of that in-house, right? So because we have already created this distribution network, we're leveraging that and reducing the cost already there. And on the origin side, because of the consolidation, we were able to reduce the cost from that partnership. Otherwise, we would rely on really large companies like DSP and all of that. The margins are really high. And the only last thing which I would like to say is that regarding the cost. When I was in India, I was talking to a lot of exporters, a lot of really legends of exporters. And one thing we were discussing that people are in India as well in exporter community are still targeting heavily towards US, Europe. And the margin in shipping lines they are working on is 3.5%, which is nothing. The average margin which comes out if you're working towards solving the trade lane between Asia and Africa, then you're working somewhere between, depends on the size of the customer, but 15% to 45%, which is massive. So the amount of wealth you create through or business opportunities you create through that distribution is very different compared to working in a very competitive trade like US to India.
Fantastic. John, over to you. As you can see, somebody is trying to reduce the friction on capital allocation, somebody is trying to reduce the friction on distribution. You are known to reduce the friction when investors come into our part of the world, and you've done a great job. We work together on manufacturing in Africa, and the amount of manufacturing concerns that you're actually promoting is quite interesting. Could you just give us a bit of an idea as what is it that Kenya can invest and your agency is doing to promote more inward investments, especially in light of AFCFTA, TFTA, and EAC, and all the other benefits of the region, apart from the leadership shown by our own political class here in promoting investments in the country?
Yeah, thank you. Investor attraction is not easy, is an art, and it takes a lot of moving parts to create the efficiency that are necessary to attract capital. And just before I delve into Kenya, and I like the numbers that Jazz highlighted, if you look at the data that was released, I think last month by the UNCTAD, Africa and Europe are neck and neck at the bottom in terms of the value in dollar terms. I think less than $80 billion came to Africa in FDI, all of Africa. And that just shows you that while there is progress and this is the continent of the future, a lot remains to be done. And I want to just mirror back to how we see India, for example. I think it's now the third largest economy in the world. And if from where I sit, looking at what happened last year, for example, by volume, in terms of number of people, the largest number of people that came to prospect investments last year came from, you want to guess? From India. But the number of delegations, of course, the Far East in China were more. But the reason that is important is naturally a lot of, for example, the manufacturing sector in this country, and I see some familiar faces in the manufacturing sector, are naturally from India. So we have really to see whether the opportunities in Kenya, when you set up in Kenya, you're in the EAC market, you're on the Pan-African level, that gives you a good chance to set up here, to be in the region, in the African continent at large. What we must then do is really tackle two things. One is the competitiveness and the cost efficiency that make us our country the natural hub to do business. And there are some things we are good at, others we are suboptimal, others we stand no chance. So that's why we must edge ourselves on sectors we offer good in return. Manufacturing has faced some challenges, is not growing as fast as it should, and other sectors are outpaced. Manufacturing, for example, like in the services sector. So we are thinking of leveraging, for example, on the Indian market, and that's why we're planning a roadshow in October. And I met the minister this morning before I came here, and he sent me with a message which is related with the number that Jaswina Bede has given. the $3 billion import bill that we have between Kenya and India must be addressing some certain sectors. And we think in the technology space, we have a chance, for example, in the BPO area, in pharmaceutical, for example, in agriculture. And we want just to see which sectors give us a compelling proposition. When the business people sit here and look at the numbers, they think the that works. So that's on the competitiveness of the sectors. And then where we come in as Kenya Investment Authority is really then to offer the enablers, the ease of doing business, the licensing, the permitting, some of the hurdles that business continues to face. And if we think we attack the cost and the ease of doing business, then Kenya becomes the natural home, and then the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is a natural market. And we hope then we can begin then to claw back on, the imbalance that we have. And we think we can really, go from courtship, which we are doing aggressively, to getting some deals on the table. And we hope from this engagement and similar that we do with Indian business community, we can get some deals. And you set up in Kenya, the continent is yours. And we think we can do more and we can do better. Thank you.
Fantastic. So going back to the theme of reducing the resistance to bringing investment in the fiduciary and tax structuring space, Sharon, your organization has done a lot of work. Tell us what makes East Africa very attractive for the Indian investors.
I think one of the most important things for any investor, and of course this room is full of entrepreneurs, is to, whenever they're making an investment or going to a new country, is to assess the risk. And the risks are unique to each investor. No two investors are the same. Like on the same panel, I have one business which is very much into manufacturing side, having huge investments in manufacturing units, and then I have an asset-light business of shipbuilding, which is a lot different than Mr. Mohanty's support business. And I think for Mr. Mohanty, the main focus, and keeping aside the debt side of the thing, is the protection of capital. And I think that's the biggest concern for anyone who is going to come set up a manufacturing unit with huge capital investment, is protection of capital and then access of finance. These are the two things which I believe, and with James as KIA head, there is no bilateral investment treaty signed between India and Kenya. I think that's something which we as policy should focus on, to give that protection of capital under the VIP to Indian entrepreneurs coming to Kenya. I think that's pretty important for us. And then, depending on what should be the right structure, usually again the capital, the excess of capital, as one of the previous panel speakers say, is we are in the double-digit rate for borrowing, so it should be not significantly for more capital, more investment to come into the country, because ultimately that's what will drive the growth in the industry. So that's very important for the economy. From the fiduciary side, of course, there are multiple structures, and as I said, no solution fit all. The solutions have to be bespoke depending on the requirements of the client. No problem, sir.
So if you see Tony sitting right next to me, it's not because he likes my aftershave, he wants me to shut up. But to be fair to my to be fair to my panelists, I need to give them one statement to make. If we had 5 years perspective from now, what would you have done in that 5 years, and what would success look like?
Please, 1 minute each.
Okay. You see, what's the problem in Africa? You have a continent which is 18 million, the percentage population is about 18%. The manufacturing is about 1.9%. 2% of the world manufacturing is in Africa. Now coming to our industry, I will be specific to the industry, so give I can replicate it across industries. The total Africa steel demand is about 40 million tons, of which 20 million tons is imported. Now, you have the iron ore in Africa. Africa has enough iron ore to last more than 100 years. Africa has got enough coal and enough gas, but we don't need steel. Nippon Steel, which is, when you talk about Japan, manufactures 45 million tons of steel. Africa's, and the largest steel company in India, let's say JSW or Tata, is about 25 million tons. Now, Africa potentially should be creating a Nippon Steel or a Tata's in Africa. If things work, what needs to work? With all we're talking about common market, AFCTA needs to work. For it to work, we need to have a common market, a common currency, etc., and people following that process and people following the tax structures. Then things work. Then investment comes in. We already want the Japanese Nippon to come and invest in this continent. Already, we're talking to them to come here and invest. In Uganda, there is 500 million tons of iron ore, very good quality iron ore, which can take 50 years. But the thing is, it's all about the land. It's all about creating that common big market. It's about adhering to the principles. There's a lot of substandards. So if you want, there's a lot of illicit trade which discourages investment. So that needs to be controlled. The commons need to be much more active. The common needs to be much more, and we talk about it.
Thanks.
I think that's what I would say.
Great.
I think it will start with time management.
So, Mr. Merida, just one quick one. What would success look like for you from 5 years from now?
5 years from today, a seamless Africa which gives a massive market opportunity and hundreds of or thousands of companies from India in the continent, but at least 100 new companies from India in Kenya would be good success.
Thank you. Sahil, just a quick one. Where do you see logistics going in the next 5 years?
So I think very quickly, free trade agreements will up and running, so smooth communication and the transportation will happen. And most importantly, one thing is that Africa is growing from population wise, but the manufacturing is not growing compared to population growth, hence the dependency on the import is rise, hence the opportunity is also in the local manufacturing, which now Cuba is doing really well. And lastly, personally, I think our company will become a $200 million company.
Fantastic. Last thing, Shanna, we've talked a lot about manufacturing. If you were, but there's a lot more. There's agriculture, there's data centers, there's whatever else, there's financial services and services. How do you think you would be able to catalyze those people to come here?
I think the biggest incentive for the businesses is the access to the market and the growing middle class. Because with the growth in the middle class in East Africa, more and more service-oriented businesses are going to come. There is a lot of scope, and I'm sure a lot of Indian companies like there are many apps in India which can easily be copied in the East African context, and that's something which is definitely a big market for East Africa and for Indian businesses who want to do asset-light businesses on the continent. So that's something which I will strongly recommend to entrepreneurs, and that will be a key success for East Africa to move to more of a service or tertiary sector as part of the GDP. Thanks.
Great. So last one, guys, thank you very much, Tomi, for keeping us on the short leash. But everybody who believes in Africa and East Africa, please raise your hands. This is going to be, Mr. Mendoy, please take the photograph. These are going to be our investors in the next few years. Thank you.
May I have a round of applause for that, please? Come on, guys. Thank you. A real round of applause. Thank you. Yes, I know I promised lunch, but I've got one last thing to do.